The apartment was cheap enough that I should have asked more questions. Instead, I signed the lease anyway. I was 23 at the time, fresh out of university, working my first full-time job in a city I barely knew. Everything in my life felt temporary back then. My job, my friendships, even the way I furnished my space with second-hand furniture that didn't match anything else. So when I found a place that was affordable and available immediately, I didn't overthink it. I told myself I was just getting on my feet. The building itself looked ordinary from the outside, a narrow, aging structure wedged between two newer blocks, like it had been slowly pushed out of relevance, but refused to leave. My unit was on the second floor. It was split into 2 rooms, technically. In practice, it was one cramped living space that tried to be everything at once. The main room had a small stove wedged into one corner, a sink that never quite stopped dripping, and just enough floor space for a bed that doubled as a couch if I pushed it against the wall. Off to the side, a narrow screened-in porch served as my only escape from the smell of instant noodles and old paint. The second room was the part that bothered me most. It had a door that stayed locked at all times. No explanation, no spare key, nothing in the lease that clarified whether it was storage or just off limits. I asked the landlord once, and he shrugged like I'd asked him about the weather 10 years ago. "Just don't worry about it," he said. That should have been enough information to leave. I stayed anyway. At first, nothing felt wrong, just old building noises, pipes knocking, wood settling, the occasional thump from neighbors. I told myself stories about it being character, but the building didn't stay quiet for long. The first thing I couldn't rationalize away happened late one night when my girlfriend, Mara, stayed over. We had fallen asleep with the TV still glowing low on the wall, some show neither of us was really watching anymore. Sometime after midnight, she woke up suddenly. I remember her sitting up before I even fully opened my eyes. "Did you see that?" she asked. "You see what?" She didn't answer right away. She was staring past me toward the hallway. Our bathroom door was directly across from that locked second room. It was slightly ajar when it shouldn't have been. Mara said she had woken up and seen it swing open slowly, like someone had pushed it from inside. And then, she said, there was a figure standing in the bathroom doorway, not fully formed, not detailed, just a darker shape in a darker room, like the absence of light pretending to be human. It didn't move, it just stood there, facing her. I got up, checked everything, flipped every switch. The bathroom was empty. The locked room was still locked. But she wouldn't sleep there again after that night, unless the lights were on. And even then, she started leaving earlier and earlier in the mornings. Eventually, she just stopped staying over altogether. I told myself it was sleep paralysis, shadows, tired eyes. It was easier to think that than anything else. The apartment didn't let me stay comfortable in disbelief for long. A few weeks later, I woke up to the fire alarm screaming. Not a distant alarm, not a neighbor's, mine, inside my ceiling, right above my bed, blaring so loud I could feel it in my teeth. I jumped up half blind, heart pounding, expecting smoke, expecting chaos. But when I reached up and yanked it off the ceiling mount, the sound stopped instantly, just like that. Gone. No smell of burning, no heat, no alarms in the hallway, no panicked shouting from other apartments. I stood there holding the plastic device in my hand, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. By that point, I started noticing smaller things that were easier to dismiss individually, but harder to ignore as a pattern. Knocking sounds came first, not the normal kind of neighbor noise. This was rhythmic, deliberate, like someone tapping the underside of a spoon against a countertop, over and over again. It often came from below me, always in bursts. Tap, 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 pause. Then again. Sometimes it went on for hours. Sometimes it started in the middle of the night and continued until dawn. Once I went downstairs to ask about it. The woman living there at the time looked at me like I'd accused her of something strange. She said she hadn't heard anything at all. After that, I stopped asking. Then there was the wall, a different kind of knocking. This one closer. It sounded like someone tracing the inside of the building itself, tapping upward in uneven intervals, as if following the studs inside the wall. Slow, searching, almost curious, and beneath it all, occasionally came a sound I could never properly explain. A low, strained moan that sometimes rose into something like a distant howl. It never stayed in one place long enough to locate. Every time I tried to pin it down, it felt like it shifted just out of reach, like it belonged to the building, rather than any single apartment. The unit across the hall cycled through tenants so quickly, I stopped learning their names. 3 different sets of people in a single year. One of them left in the middle of the night. Another told me, briefly and awkwardly, that the place felt off before avoiding eye contact and moving out 2 weeks later. I began to wonder if the apartment was less haunted and more unwelcoming, or maybe I was just convincing myself of that so I could stay. Eventually, I started doing something I wouldn't have admitted to anyone at the time because it sounded ridiculous, even to me. I gave whatever was there a name. It started because I kept getting mail addressed to a former tenant, someone named Elliot Grain. Bills, flyers, things that should have been forwarded years ago. The name stuck in my head because it showed up so often, like a reminder that I was not the first person to live inside those walls. So I started calling the presence Eli. I don't know why that made it feel better. Maybe because naming something makes it smaller, less infinite, more manageable. I started talking out loud sometimes when I was alone. Not full conversations at first, just comments. A good morning when I woke up. Hey, you can chill out tonight. I've got work early before going to sleep. Half jokes, half attempts at control. Strangely, the apartment seemed quieter when I did it. Or maybe I just noticed the quiet more when I wasn't bracing for something. At one point, I even wrote a sheet of paper titled Eli's Notes and left it on the kitchen counter with a pen beside it. I wrote a message on it first. If there's something you need fixed, write it down. Nothing ever appeared on it, but I kept leaving it there anyway, like maintaining a routine with an uncooperative roommate. Mara thought I had lost it when I told her. She didn't say it unkindly, just firmly, like someone trying to pull a friend back toward the solid ground. After she stopped visiting, the apartment felt even larger than it already was, like the silence had room to stretch. I didn't last much longer there after that. Eventually, I moved out without ceremony, packed everything into a borrowed car, and left the keys on the counter, because handing them directly to the landlord felt like an unnecessary formality. Even now, I don't fully know what I lived through in that place. I don't lean entirely toward ghosts, not really. I also don't lean entirely away from them anymore either. That apartment made unknown feel less like a gap in knowledge and more like a category of its own, something that doesn't care whether I believe in it or not. Sometimes I think about Eli, or whatever I was actually talking to, and I wonder if it was ever aware of me at all, or if I was just another temporary sound in a building that never really stopped making them.